Critical Hit is a drunken, foul-mouthed podcast for adults. Content warnings can be found in the episode description. Hello, world, and welcome to Critical Hit, a podcast where we drink beer and talk about everything. I'm your host, Red King, and with me is Crimson and Chrono Warden. Tonight, we are trying Harpoon Dunkin Pumpkin.
That Dunkin Pumpkin beer.
And we're gonna be talking about nostalgic gaming stuff, everything old, taking a walk down memory lane. You guys ready?
We're ready.
All right, we are Critical Hit. This is Harpoon Dunkin Pumpkin.
You know what? I appreciate everything that happened there.
So, yeah, bottles this time instead of cans. Cheers, bros. Let's go.
Cheers. All right, here, Dunkin Pumpkin. I'm punkin' chunkin' with my Dunkin Pumpkin.
Nope.
What? Damn it, that's the second fucking time.
Why is it decent?
Come on, that was
No.
You're failing miserably at finding miserable beers.
No,
For himself.
yeah, we're in the fall, autumn, bullshit pumpkin everything season, and this is the second. What I was trying to do was find horrible pumpkin beers, and so far I've been pleasantly surprised. This is Dunkin Pumpkin, a special edition brew from Harpoon.
What kind of drink is this? Like, what is it?
It's I believe it's an ale.
It's an ale. That's surprising because it tastes so much like coffee, but it's not like.
Yeah, so
It's not a
this
stout.
actual flavor, it's not pumpkin puree. It is a pumpkin spice latte flavor.
Okay.
Yep. So 5.2 ABV, so about regular strength on that. Started in '86 by Don Canary and Rich Doyle in Boston, Massachusetts. Harpoon. They found their inspiration, their inspo from stuff in the UK.
Rich homie Doyle
Yeah.
found his inspo.
Sir Arthur Conan Robert Doyle.
In 1993, they introduced the Harpoon IPA. Now, this is like fucking extreme for '93 to just bring out an IPA.
Yeah.
No, it caught on. So they're kind of like the
New Kids on the Block. The ballsy.
yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, in '93.
That's been 29 years.
So yesterday I watched the thing about fucking Zima.
Oh.
It's like around that same time there was shit like Zima coming out, and then you have Harpoon bringing up IPAs that are like inspired by.
So I will say I think I like it more than the Country Pumpkin, but
What?
I gotta say I put the Country Pumpkin ahead of this one.
I don't know. I don't particularly like either one of them.
Well, that was also an IPA. Country Pumpkin was an IPA, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So okay. So you're not very partial to the hoppy ones.
So a little bit more about Harpoon as a company. They have an annual marathon that they run in Boston to raise money for the Angel Fund, an organization that works to try to fund research for ALS, cure for ALS.
Oh.
Charcot's disease.
So it turns out they're
Or Lou
just kind of
Gehrig's,
great.
for all you
They're a great
Americans.
brewing company.
Yeah, they're fucking sick.
They're wonderful.
And apparently, with this Dunkin' Donuts ass pumpkin ale, they did a good job.
Now, do you think, because that has to be, they officially partnered with Dunkin' Donuts? 'Cause
absolutely.
It's still a 3 out of 10 for me. It's
So
about the same as Country Pumpkin.
So this
that's what
one last little thing about this is this is the pumpkin spice latte flavor. They have 3 other Dunkin' inspired flavors. They sell them in a pack. It is the box of beer instead of box of Joe, right? Because they have that box of Joe.
Oh, that's clever. But I do listen. That's near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. But no, that's very clever. I got to give them that.
Yeah, it's really good. We're gonna talk about nostalgic, old video game stuff.
We're treading dangerous waters. There's gonna be a lot of people really mad. They said some things about my favorite old game.
Well, we're not doing a tier list or anything like that.
I'm doing a tier list.
Yeah, we're not doing a tier list yet.
Yes. But see, here's my thing, right? If we're going to get into that, we should do like console tier list and then games for each of those consoles as a separate thing. So like a PS1 tier list.
You're not gonna try to tell me that. You're not gonna console tier me. No.
S tier right now, go.
Fucking PlayStation 2.
Yes. N64.
You're gonna put N64 S tier?
N64.
You're fucking around. Dreamcast.
Battle Tanks Global Assault.
Battle Tanks is my shit.
Ocarina of Time.
Come on.
Majora's Mask.
Okay.
Super Mario 64.
Dude, Super Mario 64 was groundbreaking for 3D platformers.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Oh!
Okay.
Oh.
He out of line.
GoldenEye.
He out of line, but he right.
Yeah. Nah,
Okay. What about okay. Yeah.
Here's the thing, hear me out. One of my S tiers is Xbox 360. Xbox 360
Low
was
S, high A. Somewhere in there.
okay. I can play
with
that.
that.
I can play that
Yeah.
game because they owned that console generation. You got
They
it.
did. PlayStation. So the thing about Sony in that generation is, not to get too far off topic, they had a very strong hold on the JRPG, but Xbox 360 kicked their ass around the world.
Yeah. This
And
is true.
I mean, it's like so many games. Yeah. I would put 360 at like probably
Listen, Halo 3 is enough to make the 360 S tier for me. I played so much.
So the thing about Halo 3 is that it was also very ahead of its time, because none of the Halo games afterwards have really captured that same magic.
Nope.
Reach and ODST have very good parts to them, and their forges are so much fun to fuck around in. But all those game modes originated with 3.
Yes.
But you have Griff Ball, you have all that shit.
Griff Ball. I love that mode. I love
Juggernaut,
it.
zombies.
Yeah.
that was fantastic. Holy shit.
2007, baby.
Yeah. Good year. Good year for you.
Which, if you were born in that year, you should not be listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like,
ooh.
wait a minute. Like, you know how they got in the stores, they have like, if you're born before
This date and this year, you can't buy cigarettes or alcohol.
Yes. I gotta keep a running list of if you were born in. You cannot listen to this.
I like it.
Okay, so I guess right. The start, like, what is that gaming that formative, like, I started gaming with. In our case, mine and Crimson, it is the Sega Genesis.
Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
So I think there was like kind of right
Blast processing.
it feels like there's kind of like that rich kid poor kid thing with Sega Genesis, because it came out in that it's that 16-bit.
So Genesis itself was not that expensive a console.
Yep.
Saturn was the one that tanked Sega.
Yeah, and that was right before they. So Saturn came out with discs
Yes.
before.
Well, they still had cartridges, but there was the Sega Saturn CD.
Yeah, it was like a arms race or a space race rather to make it to CDs and
Nintendo held out for a very long time.
yes.
As soon as you said space
Holy
race,
shit! The Switch they don't have
Cartridges.
discs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But remember,
How the fuck?
the
were they-
GameCube, the Wii, and the Wii U had discs.
They're like, fine, we'll
They
play.
actually went to DVD on the Wii, though. Not CD, DVD.
Yeah, so you never had CDs. They never had CDs.
And then Nintendo figured out how to put 1080p on a cartridge.
That's fucking insane.
Which is
the
actually
Switch.
turning out to be the better medium for media anyways.
Well,
so they say.
Red King and I were watching a video the other day, about a guy who built like a crazy PC out of random parts from like a Hot Wheels PC. Just to go
That
into
was
history,
amazing.
right? But
That's cool.
like evidently CRT tube monitors are really good to play games on. Like they have an insane refresh rate potential. Like you turn the graphics down because they can't handle that graphical necessarily. But I feel like they had up to 1080p CRTs.
I think it.
Or did they cap at 720?
I don't. You must have had to have a pretty boss fucking CRT to have it at 720p. I don't think it was. I think it was all 480. But the thing about it, right, is
Classic.
it's all high refresh rates, and you don't have to worry about resolution. They were running shit like Control
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
at like maximum everything except for resolution, and it was cool. It was fucking awesome. And it was something I was today years old learning. So, right. I think we ended up talking
No.
about the
They did get up there.
Holy shit! Really?
Incredible. I didn't realize that was that far along.
You gotta remember they were making CRTs well into the early 2000s.
Ooh, you're right about that.
LCD didn't
shit.
really take off, and then Plasma came out, and neither one of those was particularly good. LCD was better. Plasma was just... So Plasma had the better picture, right? But those TVs broke at the drop of a hat.
Yep. Yeah.
And were heavy.
Imagine a flat screen, but fucking heavy.
Yeah.
Like my TV's like, I think it might be like it's like almost like 60 inches or something like that. Flat screen, you can lift it just by myself.
Right, it's probably 10 pounds.
Now you had to,
And most of that's the glass.
like you had to go get some friends to fucking
Yes.
lift the CRT.
Yeah.
So-
Yo, can you help me lift this thing?
Can you help me move my 18-inch television?
We had
Team lift.
growing up, we had a 32-inch CRT Toshiba. That thing
Oh.
weighed like 600 pounds.
Yeah, dude.
And when it was
Toshiba.
finally time to get rid of it, I was almost an adult at that point. And I was out with my friends or something, and my dad moved it to the van by himself. And like when he was putting it down, he busted off his middle fingernail, and he was just screaming and swearing the whole time.
That motherfucker.
Ouch.
Yo.
Ouch.
I was like, why didn't you just wait for me to come home? And he was like, I wanted it out of here.
I wanted it gone.
Here's my will.
Make all the sacrifices
Because
needed.
then we got a 55-inch plasma, which was way lighter than that CRT TV, but it was still heavy.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, that was still a thick bitch.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you got me.
Oh, my bad. All right.
So, I think we were talking about it earlier. We were comparing like the sound difference and the graphical difference between. So, a game that we played a lot was Spider-Man and X-Men: Arcade's Revenge, and the difference between that game for the SNES versus the Genesis,
Yeah.
the graphics were like completely different. The soundtrack, it has the same tracks, obviously, but the it really was a like rich kid poor kid thing when it
Yeah.
came to the difference between hardware there. But I mean, we would play as soon as we woke up, we'd start up the Genesis and just roll credits on Sonic 2
Yep.
over and over and over and over again. And
There was no save, mind
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
So they're like, our dad would be like, "Oh, let's go outside and like play some like
Touch some
soccer or
fucking
frisbee."
grass.
Yeah, punch the grass and eat some dirt real quick and then come back in. And we paused that game. That console was hardy. I do want to point that out.
I remember spiking controllers and never breaking them.
Yep,
Yeah.
spiking controllers, pausing it, leaving it on like all day. It didn't matter what we were doing because like we didn't want to lose our spot.
Right.
No,
'Cause
that
that's
could
just
never
it.
happen.
So that's the thing, right? On the Nintendo Entertainment System, the only game I can really think of that might have had any saves were like the Zeldas and Final Fantasy, maybe Dragon Quest. Those are your RPGs. Other games didn't have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I remember passwords were a thing.
Yes. Okay, did you ever play Golden Sun?
I never did.
That's a shame.
Yeah,
But so if you didn't have a link file for the first two games, when you beat the first game, if you wrote down a 6-page password, yeah, you could transfer your character's progress and all your summons and stuff to the Lost Age. I had to do that.
a 6-page.
Yes.
Page?
Yes. 6-page password.
That's incredible. That's crazy.
That was the gold transfer. That's if you wanted everything. If you just wanted like character levels and stuff, there was a bronze, a silver, and a gold. But why wouldn't you want everything? I 100%ed that first game.
Yeah.
I busted my ass for that.
And you're gonna bust your ass fucking right down this.
Yep.
Just mad as fuck.
Oh my gosh! What if you get a letter wrong?
Oh man, dude, I couldn't.
No, you just break the fucking game board.
Dude, I entered my password to my Google account wrong twice, and I get angry.
It's like, well, looks like I'm just gonna.
Forgot password.
Yeah,
I'm
I have
gonna
to change
reset
the
this
new kid.
And then you change it. You cannot use the same password.
Oh, you're fucking with me now. Oh. So, let me try to think.
I don't know. 'Cause see, that's the thing. I had, technically growing up, my dad had an Atari.
Yep.
Which I've played. That was the 2600 with a wood finish. I had the Air, Sea, and Land game where you battled the ships, planes, or tanks.
Yeah,
we had Joust. I got really good at Joust. We had Pac-Man, which...
Oh my gosh. So my ma told me about Pac-Man on the Atari 2600. Garbage fucking game.
So the thing is that my grandpa could get all the way to the glitch level.
Yeah.
Consistently. It was the only game he played.
Listen,
That is hardcore.
That's the only game
So-
he played.
I remember just like in my early teens, I got into like emulation. Just like
oh, I remember that.
I got a 2600 emulator and I played Pac-Man one fucking time. And you want to know what? It doesn't move. Like
Right.
it doesn't move the way it should.
No.
Like you play Pac-Man and you're used to a certain amount of like.
Right, but we're all used to Pac-Man in the arcade.
Yes.
I dropped the bottle opener.
But straight up, just like we had Frogger, like original Frogger on that thing.
I love Frogger.
But that wasn't really like my formative console. The SNES was, because that's the big one I remember. We also had the Genesis though, because I had the X-Men game.
Yes.
See,
Exactly what I'm talking about.
that's a one thing I will say is that as far as a formative console goes, there's two that really stick into my mind like crazy. Don't get me wrong, I love the PlayStation 2. It was the best console I've played pretty much bar none as far as just straight pound for pound games.
Yep.
However, there's two mainly formative consoles in my gaming lifespan, and that is PlayStation 1, because things just made sense with PlayStation 1. Because you gave me Street Fighter Alpha 3 on PlayStation 1 when I first got the PlayStation 1. Our dad got it for us. And just a slew of random games. There was a NASCAR game in there. There was Legend of the Guy in there. There was Crash Bandicoot in there. And then there was Street Fighter Alpha 3. Now, I'm not going to get too far into it. But man, my love for video games and my love for fighting games was born the minute I got on that PlayStation 1. It was just, something just changed. And I couldn't beat M. Bison for shit because I sucked at those games when I was little.
That's the funny part though, right? Because it's like RPGs are my favorite genre of game, and they have been since the SNES. Super Mario RPG.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
Yep.
That's a deep cut.
Well, so my two older brothers my immediate older brother learned to read on Final Fantasy 3, which is actually 6 on the SNES, because my oldest brother could read. So they played that game together with my oldest brother doing the reading and teaching my immediate elder brother how to read somewhat on that game.
Oh, that's actually really, that's crazy.
Like, I was too young for that, but Super Mario RPG was the one where I really started getting in my teeth into it because I was learning to read, and that was the first game I was really playing.
Yes. Like, so for RPGs, the first one I remember ever playing is Beyond the Beyond, which was, it was like it's really, honestly, it was like just really a generic medieval themed RPG. I couldn't tell you who developed it right off the bat.
Okay, did you guys ever play The Illusion of Gaia?
No. Okay, so that's the second stumped face I've seen at this table. It's me. Like, never played it.
So it's a very weird game, right? Because like you're playing as this dude named Will. Your parents, I can't remember the exact thing that happened to them. Your dad was like an explorer, an archaeologist or something. But you go to like all these like biblical locations, like the Tower of Babel is the final dungeon in the game.
Whoa.
But you end up, there's different environments and stuff. You play as, the kid's name is Will, his weapon is a flute. But you end up going into like different worlds because you're trying to save the spirit of Gaia. You're trying to save the planet.
Right.
Dark Gaia is trying to take over. But you end up like taking different forms throughout the game. Like there's a knight that you can take the form of who does a hell of a lot more damage and has a hell of a lot more health. And he has a giant sword. There's a shadow dude that like throws fire at people. There was a lot to that game.
That's crazy.
But it was a very like Zelda-esque style game.
That sounds super familiar to me. Weirdly enough, it does. Like, I feel like maybe I've at least seen it. Because, I mean, I've experienced a great deal of video games through demo discs. Yeah, right.
Well, this was cartridge. This was also on the Super Nintendo.
Oh.
That was probably one of the bigger games my immediate older brother played a lot of.
Gotcha.
Was The Illusion of Gaia. Even though our oldest brother is the one who got the farthest. Until I got it on an emulator. Beat it.
It's like that I took that down. No, I know the GameCube is my second most formative console because
Really?
Yeah, the Nintendo GameCube.
Right.
So there's a couple of reasons. Because what gets me when it comes to video games is like the memories that you can attach to them. And I know I've attached a lot of things to the GameCube in general. One is my love for Smash Bros. Now I did play the original Super Smash Bros. And it did obviously stick in my head, right?
Another reason why N64 is S tier. Original Smash Brothers.
Yes.
You're right.
But I'm dropping these. But it's Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Yeah.
Oh my lord. There is nothing about that game that I dislike. Everything was it made sense, right? This game, at the time, it looked beautiful. I got to see all these characters, right? Because by that point, you didn't really have, like, the picture-perfect reimagined HD at the time version of all of these characters. But you see all of them translate into this crazy, amazing graphics at the time. The gameplay loop was perfect.
I remember, I remember in the promotional
maps could change how you play.
Yeah.
I remember in the promotional art they were showing off the denim texture.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, look at the denim on Mario's overalls. And I was like, okay, so this is what gaming is. This is what that next generation feel was.
Yeah.
I totally dig it.
That's the funny part, though. I never actually owned a GameCube. My buddy, though, like my best friend in 4th grade, he did. We put a lot of time into two particular games. Soul Calibur 2.
Yep. Yes, sir.
and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Yes, sir.
go.
Yes, sir.
I actually have that game on my Xbox.
Oh, I love Sonic Adventure.
So I have, not on the GameCube, but I have it on the
Dreamcast?
Yeah, on the Dreamcast. I have
Original.
that game. Yeah,
OG.
and you want to know what?
Well, when it was just Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah, that shit still holds up.
Yeah, it does.
I think it holds up better than some of the newer Sonic games.
It really does. Because they were onto something. Like, can I just say that there's something about how they built that game. Yes, there was glitches. Yes, there was so much wrong with it, but like the things that it was right was just really, really right.
Right, but
The
it was-
music slapped,
Yes.
bro.
Knuckles stages had some of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
But
And
that was the cool part, though, right? You got to play both sides.
yeah, and that was the thing, man. If you wanted to be edgy, that was the first time really you could play as like villains,
Yeah.
bro. It was crazy. Well, I mean, there was
In Sonic games, yes.
yes.
And they invented Shadow. I think that's his first game.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that is Shadow's first game. He was hinted at in the original Sonic Adventure. At the end, well, near the end of it, in the final stage, he was like in a capsule somewhere.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
And his original design was weird. It was really weird.
When you could play as Big the Cat.
Yeah.
That just ground it to an absolute halt.
Why?
Froggy.
Where are you?
Where are you, Froggy? And then play. Oh, actually, shit. Now I gotta fucking eat my own words. Because you want to know what? It was just a truncated version of Sega Bass Fishing, which is my shit. Absolutely. It fucking sucks. But, oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
It's really messed up
Also
because
true.
because like right, the only way they could have made it better is if they put a car game in it that was Crazy Taxi. Because they own those IPs. And
You know, the funny part, though,
fantastic
is if you
games.
think about it, Shadow's kind of Jet Set Radio, right?
Rail grind.
Whoa.
Skates.
Yeah. His and Sonic's levels are like that. Eggman and Tails are the mechs, and then treasure hunting is Knuckles and Rouge.
Right. Oh, damn it.
That's actually
Yeah, so
incredible.
yeah, they go
Dude,
hard.
what the fuck happened to games when you think about it? Not to sound too old, but like, we're talking about a GameCube game that had a battle mode. Well, so they added the battle mode to the GameCube version.
Yeah, hence battle.
But it had a battle mode. It had mech levels, racing levels, treasure hunting levels, boss fights.
Yeah.
Every character got boss fights.
They had the Tamagotchi style fucking Chow Garden.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. That was so
Where
fun.
you
Dude.
yeah.
One of my chows, we focused so hard like on just getting S rank and everything, and you're fighting these shiny chows and shit, and here's my dude with dragon hands, a tail, phoenix wings and feet, and an apple on his fucking
That game got deep just in that.
right.
And now, here's the thing, though. I will say that another fond, nostalgic memory that is tied to Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is this was back in the day where you didn't have YouTube to find out every secret of the game.
Game facts.
Yeah,
well,
so you go on
You
GameFAQs,
had
right?
to read that shit.
And-
They were the ancient texts.
But here's the thing, you tend to forget sometimes, right? It's kind of like Wikipedia with way less moderation because anybody could really post what they wanted.
oh my
So people will be posting, right? This is what got me. If you get S rank on everything and you ace the entire board in the level select, you got to play as Supersonic and Hyper Shadow outside of the final boss. So I'm like, dude, I'm gonna try this, and I remember hours and hours because, as I stated earlier, there was a lot wrong with that game. So even if you were really good at the game, some weird glitch would screw up your
Okay,
whole
but see,
run.
so speaking on that, though, I think on Pumpkin Hill, I got a glitch with Knuckles where I fell outside of the map and all the Chaos Emeralds just came to me, and I S-ranked the mission in like 30 seconds.
Ah, that's funny.
They
That's
just
funny.
fell out of the map
Sometimes
and
it
they
can
were
be
all
good.
there.
Yo, that's amazing. It's like, oh, hey.
So I think
That's
think-
how they used to build games. They were just like, he's gonna dig, and then we just put the Chaos Emerald or the Emerald Shard, the Master Emerald Shard.
yeah, it was just unless you had gotten to the point of the game that would put it in there. They just put it down there.
Yeah,
No one's gonna be there.
Right.
Whoops,
Right.
he fell through the floor. So I think that was probably the only game that we played it when it came out. So there's like that required reading type of stuff
Yeah.
that we never, me and Crimson never experienced until like we kind of got out of that generation and was able to like run it on an emulator, where we totally had the original copy because that's the rules for emulation.
Yes.
You can't see me winking, but I'm winking. And a lot of the re-releases that were coming out was like the opportunity to get into it, but yeah, never played the required reading stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like
That's funny because that's most of what I played.
We had an N64. We never played Super Mario 64 on the N64. Crazy.
Yeah.
Mario Party.
Played that game
That.
to completion on an emulator as an adult. Played, matter of fact, my first 100 or my first time I rolled the credits on that game. It was on the Nintendo DS.
Oh, the remake.
The remake of
the
that,
DS
yeah.
version. Yeah.
So like, I remember playing. We were talking about it a little earlier, like obscure, really weird games, and that's for the PlayStation. That was basically all that we played, like weird shit, like Tobal #1 and
I know why I love fighting games so much.
like Tombi or
Bushido Blade.
or Tomba.
Tomba.
It was Tombi in the UK for some reason.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever play Bushido Blade though?
Never played the original Bushido Blade.
That's a shame. That was a great fighting game because you could troll the shit out of each other because the maps were infinite, right? So the characters all moved the exact same speed. So it was generally a one hit, one kill. Like it was an actual sword fight, right? You get the first hit, you generally win, unless you hit like their arm or their leg. But any like vital area you struck, that was it. So what you could do though is because the characters moved at the exact same speed, you could just start running the opposite direction and they can never catch you. Because the map will just keep spreading out as you get farther apart until it locks the person running. But then once they start chasing you, you just continue advancing.
That is just grimy. So that's an amazing thing about old games is that nobody ever
No one thought of that.
no one thought of the meta of just fucking everybody moving at the same
Right.
Like someone's got to be faster than somebody else. No one ever thought of
Like
it.
it was like the ninja girl was as fast as the dude in giant armor. They had the same speed.
It's amazing.
Yo, that's funny.
What was the other one that we were talking about? Was Blast Chambers?
Yeah, Blast Chambers, which was like, it was like a weird spin on Bomberman, if you can imagine.
I love Bomberman, but I've never played that game.
No, because it was different, right? With Bomberman, you have it's like a maze.
Yeah.
With Blast Chambers, it's set not from the top down, but it's set almost like a side scroller. And like, it was like Bomberman mixed with hot potato.
Yeah, exactly. Because the bomb, essentially, it's like, right, it looks like a little sparkly like star thing. It wasn't like an actual bomb. Because I'm fairly certain there was probably a reason why they couldn't put a bomb in there.
All right, but to be fair, straight up Bomberman was just bombs.
Yeah,
it's in the name.
It had a yeah, true.
Not the original ones, not the SNES ones.
Okay, so here's the thing, right?
I mean, they've added faces and stuff since because bullshit in the world, but
so there was the aspect of you could run up, right, and you could, if you had the bombs, you could hit another player and give them the bomb.
right.
It is then your job to run away from them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also keep away, which is wow. Anyways, so
That sounds like one of the modes in Power Stone.
It is. Ooh, that's actually a good one. Now it is actually kind of like that, right?
Okay.
So the thing is, though, there was a number of different ways you could then mess with your opponents because there's just straight up running at them and hitting them, or you could flip the map around because there was like little rotation points, right, where you'd hit this square and then rotate the map,
Right.
and you could drop people.
Mm-hmm.
So if they think they're running over
Did
here,
they have wall running or anything, or was it
Nope.
once you hit the switch, everybody?
Yeah,
fell?
yeah, that's it. And it's like the only person who was unfazed by this is the person who hit the switch. Everybody else did poo.
That shit was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
And it's like it's kind of funny because like if you think about it, like oh no, I'm actually explaining this wrong. The star was invincibility. That's what the star was. That's right.
Your clock was ticking
Yeah,
down.
you were on timers. That's what it was, right? So now the whole point is the guy with the star, you don't want him to have a star because you want to be the last man standing. So the flipping came in when you wanted to drop the guy with the star. Because when you dropped him and he hit the ground, the star popped out.
Yep.
And you could grab the star, stop your timer, and you would be safe. Now there was traps abound and all that kind of good stuff. Like you could die other ways besides the bomb. But it was an elimination game, and it was fantastic. And I remember my first experience was on a PlayStation 1 demo disc. Right? So here's the thing. There was 2 players max on the original PlayStation 1. I don't know if you remember that. You needed a multi-tap to get more than that. So
that dumb boomerang.
Yeah. So you had to essentially always play as the green guy. And I'm like, I wanted so badly because it's like on the demo version at least because you could select your color in the full game. But like, I wanted so badly, and I remember the whole reason why I ever ended up actually renting that game. Which, yeah, if you remember Hollywood Video King, local area, like, woo. I wanted so badly to rent that game just because
you wanted to pick red.
I wanted to pick red. It was like, but I love that game, man. If they redid that game right now, you wouldn't see me.
You would have to come over and play it with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they'd probably do online only.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys would probably see me, but you'd be the only ones that would see me. You'd be like, what has he done? Not showered. He played Blast Chambers.
Okay. So just other like PS1 games. Did you guys ever play Jedi Power Battles?
No.
I played.
They had the Episode 1 game, which had terrible combat.
Yeah, I think that's what I like.
So Jedi Power Battles had 5 base characters, and you could get up to, because you could unlock Darth Maul as one of your character choices, but you could play as Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Mace Windu, a D. Gallia, or Plo Koon.
Wow, they actually got some fucking
obscure Jedi Masters in there, right?
Yeah, that's.
And then you could unlock
Jedi deep cuts. Damn.
Right. You could unlock Darth Maul. I forget how you did it, but like that game was so good and so weird. My oldest brother and I put so many hours in that on our PS1.
So sad. So sad. I just need more hours.
Yeah, give me more hours in the day so I can play more nostalgic games.
So the next thing I want to talk about, right, is we each have that game, that one piece, that one piece. We all have that one thing that just kind of got you, and when you kind of say, "Oh, what is gaming to me?" and that's one game. What is that?
So with that, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one game. It'd be a handful.
Right.
But I did pick one for this discussion, and that is Chrono Cross, sequel to beloved Chrono Trigger, hated by most Chrono Trigger fans. But I will die on the hill that Chrono Cross is better than Chrono Trigger.
Woo! That's a hot take. That's like a spicy take.
Yeah, but it doesn't have Akira Toriyama on the art, or
Island.
He doesn't have that guy who can only draw Dragon Ball.
Dragon Quest absorbed him.
Yeah, true. Very true.
He's been the artist for Dragon Quest since its inception, so
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just Chrono Cross's story is very interesting. It starts out and you're just a kid in a fishing village, right? You live in a tropical island. It's like you're a fucking dude in Hawaii.
Not bad.
And you're going to collect some pretty shells for your girlfriend. That's how the game starts. You end up getting transported to another world where you are dead. And this is the first half hour of the game. And it only gets weirder and more wonderful and wild from there. The game has 45 characters in its roster.
What?
Yeah. Trigger
Okay.
had 7, I think. Yeah, 7. If you recruited the secret character. But the cool thing
That
is...
was the Scythe dude. That was the secret.
Magus, yes. But that's the cool thing about Chrono Cross, right? Is that its combat system was kind of pseudo-turn-based. You had the active time battle of Final Fantasy, and then you had the addition system of Legend of Dragoon, because those are probably the big RPGs I played on the PS1, besides like the Wild Arms series.
Right.
Which, fantastic series. If you have not played them, get them. I've played all of them and beaten all of them except 5.
Wild Arms?
Yep.
Huh. I actually have to jump into that because I've never played a Wild Arms game. I can say I've always been interested in them. I've always seen them. Back when I used to watch X play.
Right, okay. So a quick summary of Wild Arms. You're on a dying planet where it was a war between demons, who are aliens, humans, and elves, basically. The elves in the first game seal themselves off in a separate world, and the demons are coming back. So it's this weird fantasy, sci-fi, western feel. Like the opening theme of the first game is one of my favorite music themes ever. To the End of the Wilderness. Because it has that very like the good, the bad, and the ugly musical style to it.
Nice.
It's got the whistling. It's got everything. It's a great game. Anyway, to get back to Chrono Cross itself, the reason I enjoy Chrono Cross so much is because it's very much an exploration of the question of what if, right? Because you're playing in 2 separate worlds, and different things change in each world, depending on what happens. And you're literally seeing the pathways that even NPCs, minor NPCs. So in the version where the main character is living, they're a thriving fishing village. It's been fairly rainy. They're not experiencing a drought. The other one, they're having a drought. So there's one guy who is a very successful fisherman. He's got like a lion shark hanging up in his basement, and he gives you a shark tooth necklace.
Right.
Because he's like, this gave me luck, but now I have my kid and my wife, so I'm really in a good spot. You go to his version in the other world, the dude's worshiping a voodoo doll.
Holy. All right.
So it's a very...
Cool.
So when I first got Chrono Cross, I found it in the clearance dump bin at GameStop, which at the mall I went to, it was called Software Etc. It was owned by GameStop, but that was the local version.
That's a weird one.
Yeah.
I
But
get behind it.
I saw the cover. It looked cool. It had the 3 main characters, basically, the villain and then your 2 main heroes.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that dude's using a double-bladed sword. Now, this was coming hot off Final Fantasy IX, where Zidane uses a dual-bladed sword. So that weapon type was really resonating with me at the time. Because it was so unique to anything I had seen. But got it for like $5. But yes, Chrono Cross is the game where I felt like it really asked the question of what if. And as someone who's big into studying like time science and stuff like that, I can enjoy those plot lines. The idea of alternate dimensions is kind of interesting.
Right.
Because what if is generally a question that can terrify you into paralysis. And that happened with me a few times.
Right.
But Chrono Cross kind of, some people are paralyzed in the one world because they're like, oh, what if? Like there's another minor NPC from the same village. In one of them, the one where the main character lives, she's writing a book of poems because she wants to become a famous poet. The other one, she gave up on her dream.
Huh.
And there's actually a side quest where you can take a book of poems written by the one version and take it to the other. And she doesn't believe you that it's written by her, but she opens it and it's her handwriting. And she's like, all right, I'll pick it back up. And when my first book is done, I will give it to you. So you can kind of even like repair things between the worlds.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
really
that's
cool.
yeah, that's fucking amazing.
Because I feel like it's like taking the concept of like, what was that? A Link to the Past did like the world flip thing.
So
Where they had like a dark world and a
Yes.
regular world. But it's kind of like taking that to like a whole nother level.
yes, Chrono Cross's story. I generally hate when games do a massive lore dump towards the end. And Chrono Cross is guilty of that a little bit. It's, if you really break the game down, there's 3 major acts. There's where you're playing as the main character, then you end up playing as the villain for a little bit, and then you're back as the main character. I'm not going to spoil the in-between, because I kind of want you two to go play this game.
Right? Yeah. Well, there's a remaster, isn't there?
There is.
There's a remaster.
$20.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
On the Switch would be the version I recommend because it can be a little janky, and the Switch doesn't care if it's using less processing power.
Right. Fair enough.
But yeah, $20. Very much worth it. I have been playing it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to look into it because I've always been kind of fascinated in it because I remember Red King actually went through a Chrono Trigger phase.
Yep.
So when it came to like, because I guess at the time I didn't fully understand that they were connected. like they're actually like, it's a sequel as it were.
Yes.
So
to a degree.
It kind of like, because I've seen it and I'm like, oh man, this looks cool, and it did remind me a lot of like I guess stylistically, it reminded me a lot of like Legend of Legaia, which was one of those games that I mentioned that we got. But yeah, I've always wanted to try it, so it might be time for me to get a remaster.
Like I said, I will die on the hill that Chrono Cross is better than Trigger.
Fun fact about games and media named Chrono, I got into the anime Chrono Crusade.
I have actually watched that one.
Off of thinking that it would be in some way similar to Chrono Cross or Trigger, and it is not. No, it's not. It's like,
so, ironically enough, the Chrono part of my handle is from this game.
Nice.
Oh, okay. I like
Chrono is the prefix for time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
literally, Time Warden, Time Guardian, Time Shield
Oh,
Nice.
is effectively what my screen name is.
I'm like a shade of red. It was always my favorite team to play in competitive gaming. Speaking of which,
because I usually went blue or green.
ooh, I love red. Now here's the thing. Speaking of that, I'm gonna go into my defining game. So here's the thing. What got me hooked on gaming, I realized, was the more competitive aspect of things. Now, I do indeed love me a fighting game because that's like the downright 1 versus 1 competitive. But here's the thing. What got me into the competitive gaming scene was undoubtedly Unreal Tournament 2004.
Okay, that's a deep one.
So our dad went through this phase of like, it's PC, it's PC gaming, right? And he went, and when he upgraded our PC to a more gaming standard PC, as it were, one of the games that we got with it was Unreal Tournament 2004. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't fully understand what it was about. Matter of fact, I think I might have played Unreal Tournament 2004 but online before I played Halo Combat Evolved online. I believe my first online experience was Unreal Tournament 2004.
Wow, okay.
See, that's funny because it's like, so there's always an inherent competitiveness between siblings, right?
Mm.
And it takes a while when you're the younger sibling to actually be able to best the older one.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually
And he bested me. I've never fucking played that shit online.
well, no. So what I was gonna say though is that I kind of hate that side of myself. Like it brings out some deep shit with me. Like I start swearing in ways where I'm like, hold up, hold on, calm down.
Be like, why am I mad at you?
Right.
But it was because when you think about the current scene of competitive shooters, it is all very like they boiled this down 100 times to make it the most balanced, this, that, and the other thing possible.
Did they have the Redeemer in that game?
They did have the Redeemer
Oh,
in that
yes.
game. They did have the Redeemer in that game, and I love that weapon. Now, here's the thing.
Well, no, I'm just remembering it from Quake.
Unreal Tournament did not care. Oh, Quake.
What?
Awesome.
Oh my god,
Same,
I forgot about it.
yeah.
Same universe.
Yep, same universe,
Yep.
same developers.
Now,
Unreal
owned by
Tournament-
Microsoft on Xbox Game Pass.
Fuck yourself.
Unreal Tournament 2004 did not care about balance.
No, most games
Didn't give a
back in that
shit
day
about it.
didn't.
Like, and that's the thing. That's what I kind of loved about it because, like, I feel like true competitive gamers were born in a space where not everything was made to be fair. It was just made, and it was like, fucking deal with it. And that was Unreal Tournament 2004.
See, so there's credits to both, right? Like the idea is that you want so something like League of Legends, right? I actually did play League for a while. I only did a couple of like non versus bot matches, and I left that community because it is so fucking toxic.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
have everyone just swearing up and down, calling everyone everything, and I was like, nah, I don't need that in my life. I don't need to be DDoSing people or getting DDoSed or any of that shit.
Yeah. Now,
And,
I will say that communities can ruin a game,
yeah,
but I do just like the aspect of like, this isn't made to be this weird, perfect, gameplay loop where it's like, oh man, make sure your tactics are this and that. You were jumping through the air significantly higher than you ever should, running fast. There was power-ups you could
Yeah,
pick
I
up
know.
to make you book it super fast. You picked up weapons, like you didn't start with a loadout.
yeah,
You
I
found the
played
weapon.
as the War Cow.
Yeah, it was.
Which had a completely different body shape.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's the other thing that people didn't account for in old games is that
Fucking odd job.
yeah,
Or
the,
scientist number 2.
the build of the character, right? It's like that affected how well you did. You could have a really odd shaped, short, skinny. Like that was the thing. You played as any of the females because this is what they didn't do in older games. Is they made females tiny. They were all fucking tiny.
Okay. You played Apex though, right?
Yes.
Wraith has the most bullshit hitbox in any modern game.
That was every female
Yes.
in Unreal Tournament 2004 was Wraith in Apex Legends. And it was a pain in the ass. And when you played against them, oh man, I hated it.
That's why the Redeemer was fun, because it did not give a shit about your hitbox.
I
And
can't believe. Yeah.
We're talking about rotating revolver style rocket launcher.
Oh,
That could
and you
kill
could-
you,
and you
too.
could-
That could kill you too.
You could stack all the rockets and launch them all at once.
Yeah. I'm like, ridiculous weapon design. Like, the maps were crazy.
Yeah.
And the modding community.
Oh my god.
Because you could use the mods online and they didn't care. Because nobody cared.
Moderation was not a thing
Yeah.
back in this wild west
Okay,
era of
yeah,
online
dude.
games.
Yeah, I mean, you did also end up in a lot of very strange servers that had like, kind of tiled pictures of boobs and things. But
It was like
aside-
psychotic titty hell.
yeah, and it was like, and they did. There was no skill behind it. There was no formatting anything. It was like in those old websites where somebody really didn't know
Oh,
anything
the
about web design.
GeoCities.
Yeah, just tiled boobies.
No, so there was a cracked version of Warcraft 3 on my high school. Like, the computer lab had computers that weren't attached to the main network, and we would play games on those sometimes. Like, if we skipped class or something, or, left early because was we didn't have a 7th period or something, we'd go up there because there was no 7th period for that teacher, and we'd play like Age of Empires 2 and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But they had a cracked version of Warcraft 3 that they had downloaded onto those computers, and straight up one of the map icons was just boobs.
That's hilarious.
It was so stupid.
But yeah, I feel like that changed my whole landscape as far as gaming goes. And ever since then, anything competitive, even if I'm not great at it, I will still try to do it. And I think that's kind of like, weirdly enough, inspired my love for things like fighting games and things like that. You know, and I mean,
Yeah, because it's less about, that game really didn't have a meta.
yeah,
No.
It didn't,
It was play a girl or a cow.
yeah.
Because the thing about the war cow is that you were short. You were shorter than most of the females, but you were wide. But headshots were weird unless they were using a shotgun.
Yeah. Same thing like with Halo 3 when it came out, and you had
The
Spartans
elites.
versus elites.
Yeah.
The elites, their heads were lower, and if you were looking at them straight on, it was hard to get that headshot
Yeah.
because the Spartans, their heads sat on top of their shoulders.
Right, they're humans.
Yep, the competitive meta of Halo 3 was play as an elite.
Yeah, and that's when the meta started to kind of like cook the well, I mean, every game started to develop a meta, and then when developers started to get into the meta and they started to develop with the meta in mind,
Yeah.
it
Okay,
started to get
here's a
stinky.
pair for you. The original Star Wars Battlefronts. Did you guys ever play them? PlayStation 2.
I played Battlefront 2 for like a little bit. It wasn't.
Okay, that's a shame because one, it's still a fantastic game. I have it on Steam and Xbox, and I still play it to this day. The Steam version actually has online play.
Whoa.
Granted, it's through like Steam Link and shit, but still.
I mean, still cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so the thing is that in the first game there was no fucking balance. The Empire and the Rebels, if you played the Galactic Civil War era, was a lot more balanced because everybody was human, and the special troops weren't so unweighty. If you went to the Republic era where it's CIS versus the Republic, the droidicas were so fucking broken in that game, their shields were complete and utter bullshit. So you could play as the CIS and you would just fucking roll, literally, because you can turn into a ball as a droidica.
Cool.
But you could plate yourself in a door with the shield that didn't have a cooldown timer. It could just stay up. The only unit that could do anything to you was the Republic Jet Trooper because they had an EMP grenade and an EMP cannon.
Yep.
Both those weapons sucked.
That's crazy.
So you couldn't play as the Republic, at least not well. I'm sure there are people that did, but hats off to you because I fucking found that shit frustrating. As soon as you come across a fucking droidica with your gun and shit, it's like, well, I'm dead. And then they could just sit on the command point and just hold it.
Yeah.
So you could never take it. Or if you got in there, you were taking it.
that sounds like a nightmare.
It was ridiculous. So in Battlefront 2, the droidicas are still like a good unit, but they're not invincible anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Republic Jet Trooper is a lot better in the second game.
Right.
Their EMP cannon is a lot more like stronger. It's a lot more accurate. You can take out their shield. Their shield has a timer on how long they can use it. Or you can play as the clone commander and just Gatling gun it to hell.
Listen, that sounds like my style of gameplay.
Listen, if I bring my 360 over, or I suppose I could sign into your Xbox and just download the game, we could do up to 4-person competitive.
That sounds like a plan.
We need a fourth person, but we could do 2v2, or it could just be all 4 of us on one team.
Hell yeah.
Because the newer Battlegrounds don't have Galactic Conquest, which was the fucking greatest mode in that game. Like, what is the point of doing Star Wars without Galactic Conquest if you're going to have a big-ass game like that?
Very true. Very true.
So, let's see. So I've got the game. I've got my one piece that has gotten me not just into gaming, but into that genre and kind of into the greater art of it. Because like I think it's the one thing that's made me kind of like get into like drawing and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Legend of Legaia. You said it like 7 times in this episode. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope that's not the one that he's got. But
scary.
like, nope, fucking lying. A Bug's Life. That game on the PS1 was good, though.
It was kind of fire. Weird.
So...
Yeah, but I always liked Ants more than Bug's Life in terms
You're
of
such a
movies.
fucking dark asshole. That's what your problem is.
How am I a dark
Because
asshole?
Ants was fucking... It was scary.
I love that movie.
When they were
A
talking...
Bug's Life is good,
When
but
dude picked up guy's dismembered head and dude didn't know he was a dismembered head.
That was dark.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh boy. Anywho, Legend of Legaia, right? So I have got a couple of different factoids, if you will, for Legend of Legaia. Right? It was developed by Procyon in so the game was released in the US March 16th of 1999. Besides Legaia and its sequel, Dual Saga, which arguably not very good.
Inarguably not very good. Game was trash.
They only made one other game.
I never actually played either of The Legend of Legaia or Dual Saga.
You don't need Dual Saga. In no way, shape, or form is its sequel connected at all to the previous game. It's fucking crazy.
And in no way, shape, or form is it good.
So,
sorry for the
Procyon made
Legaia 2 fans out there.
cocksucker.
That's my favorite game! Why are we sounding like Pinocchio from fucking Shrek? It's a thong! Or the Gingerbread Man, maybe.
Yeah.
Not my gumdrop button.
I wear ladies' underwear. Why isn't your nose growing? He's wearing ladies' underwear. It's a thong!
So they only made one other game. And I'm about to butcher the name because it's a Japanese name. Kenron Bato. Let's try it again. Kenron Bato Sai, the Mars Daybreak.
Mars Dave.
Okay, remember, they have said Batosai in Rurouni Kenshin because he was
not-
Batosai the Manslayer.
Oh, Batousai. Batosai.
Yes.
Oh my fucking
the
god!
player, you dick.
No,
We watched it.
I can fuck. Yo, I turfed it so hard. Wow. So,
Because you got to remember, usually U's in the middle of Japanese words
shut
are
up.
silent.
Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. So, along with my pride, which I cannot find anymore, I cannot also find any screenshots or videos of Kenron Batosai Mars Daybreak.
It was lost in the 1898 earthquake in Tokyo, which
So-
killed much of the same horror footage.
So, there's an anime called Mars Daybreak,
Yeah,
and it is somehow connected to this game.
interesting.
Where have I heard about Mars Daybreak?
I think you've watched it before.
Is it an older one or a more recent one?
It's like a early 2000s.
Okay.
I've definitely watched it, guarantee.
I've never
That's when I got
watched
into
it, but
anime.
I know I've heard of it.
So I'll just the other thing. It was published by Contrail. It's a subsidiary of Sony, and they publish 8 games. Now, Wild Arms 2 was one of them. Alundra 2 was another one of them.
Played both of those.
there's a bunch of other ones with Japanese names that I will not pronounce because you guys are not going to do that shit to me again.
You say that, but we have other episodes coming up, Seth.
So one of them is going to be an anime episode. Yeah.
So it's fucking who, weeb? So it had blocky graphics.
Red King and the Isekai Hell.
I'm like clenching my drink. If it was a can instead of a bottle, it would be crushed.
You have a can in front of you, though.
That can's not open yet.
So crush it.
If I crushed it, I'm soaking everything in soda. So Final Fantasy VII came out 2 years before it.
Yes,
and
97.
as far as I know, besides Brave Fencer Musashi, which had the same art style as Final Fantasy VII, I can't think of another game that had that same blocky
polygonal bullshit.
Yeah, no, I think that's.
Okay, I'm sorry. Palmer's stomach ripping open in the Final Fantasy VII boardroom is still one of the most hilarious graphical breaks in a game. And it is in all the HD remakes of the original Final Fantasy VII. Palmer's torso splits open like a pig, which he is. Yeah. So, it's apropos.
So I'll go through one more of the factoids before I get into the amazing thing that made me love this game. The amazing things, because everybody had different things that registered with them on an emotional level. I've got dumb factoids, and here's a great one. So the voice actor for the main character, because this game had voice acting in the battle scenes, the voice actor, once again, Japanese name, Wataru Takagi, right? He did the Japanese voice of Ganju Shiba in Bleach. Obito Uchiha in Naruto. I mean, this guy does work, but I'm just listing things that I think anybody could know.
Google.
Yeah, true.
Hugo from Street Fighter. He's been the voice of Hugo since Street Fighter 3. Since the game.
His inception.
Knuckle from Hunter x Hunter. Fantastic series. He is the official voice actor in Japan for Daffy Duck.
What the fuck? Really? I can't imagine, because all I can remember is him yelling like blurbs, getting ready to kill some monsters, and turns out that's Daffy Duck.
Yeah. So I have to show. I need to
Duck
show.
season.
Daku season. Dude,
Doku season.
He could pull it off.
Oh, so we need to see. I'm going to show you some videos later.
Yes.
It'll fucking blow your mind. So this game, now to get the emotional shit, right? So I have never, until Legend of Legaia, I've never really had an idea of the depth of like RPG games. This one was kind of nice because it didn't have quite as much of the deepness as far as like a battle system. Like you didn't have to worry too much about spells and shit like that. It was a battle system that was somewhat inspired by fighting games.
Right.
So you would enter like different inputs that would left and right with your arms. High and low or a high kick and a low kick, and all the characters were martial arts, and they just punched and kicked.
High, low, high, boy.
Yep.
It was if Sabin from Final Fantasy VI was the focus of the game.
Ooh.
Because in Final Fantasy VI, most of his special moves, actually technically all of them, have different button inputs that you have to do.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to that idea.
Interesting.
I didn't steal it. It was completely original.
No, never that.
Well, okay, but even the idea of like multiple button inputs, Legend of Dragoon had also come out at this point and had the addition system.
Right.
That was time based. This was all.
Yeah, this was you'd actually it'd be high, low, high, and then you'd enter that input, click begin, and then your character would run forward. And if it was a specific input. If it so high, low, high in that game was for Vaughn, the main character. It was a somersault, and he would do like Guile, like Street Fighter. Whap! He'd hit him with somersault. If you just threw in random inputs, he would just do a random combination of punches and kicks. And that game had. So that was one of the first games where I started to get that completionist mindset, where now in that game you could capture these monsters. They were called Siru, and you know if you beat them but didn't like overkill them, there was a chance that you could absorb them and they could be summons, and they were one turn and they'd use a special move, and there were tons of them and they all had different elements. And that was that completionist mindset of, I gotta get all the Siru summons. And there were secret ones.
Right.
There were mini games. There were like, it had a fishing mini game. And like that's kind of like a bop for video games. And they always in the classic generation of games, they always had fucking fishing, and they were always mechanically really fucking good.
Weirdly
Like
enough,
Zelda had a great fishing game.
Yeah.
We were just talking about fucking Big the Cat, and it was just Sega Bash fishing. This game had a sick fucking fishing game.
Dark Cloud 2.
Yeah.
I spent stupid amounts of
Yeah.
that.
You just get so deep.
Right. So here's the thing, though, right? In Dark Cloud 2, you could catch fish, and there was a weight competition. So if you didn't put them in your aquarium, or you could raise them for racing, which is its own separate mini game.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
You could just catch fish, weigh them, and you got prizes depending on how big they were. Or if you went, and you found a good fish, you could breed them too. So you could pass stats down. And I always had like this really tiny super fish, and it would be in the ring with all these like giant fish. And it would just outspeed them completely. It was fantastic.
That's amazing. I love that they put whole other games in their games.
So the premise of Legaia was it was like medieval kind of like medieval European type of setting. The world had been overtaken by this mist, and it turned the Siru, which were these stone-like creatures that mankind would use to their advantage, and it turned them into monsters. And what you would do as a main character, he got a special kind of Siru that was resistant to the mist. He was a hero, and he would go and find these Genesis trees, and he would pray to them, and that would drive the mist away. Now,
This is very similar to Illusion of Gaia.
Oh, word?
Like, because the idea is that you're trying to prevent the impending darkness.
Holy shit.
Hold on.
Like, you go to, like, the Great Wall of China and shit in Illusion of Gaia, and you have to fight bosses there.
Now, another interesting thing is this was kind of Christianity themed.
Yeah.
Because, like, at the beginning of the game, during, like, the opening crawl, it says, "Oh, God created man, and then God created the Siru, and the Siru helped them, and then all of a sudden the mist." And maybe this is. I might have to look this up. I wonder if it's like a spiritual successor, or a type of.
To the Illusion of Gaia, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, maybe.
Because Illusion of Gaia was kind of a Zelda ripoff.
But this game was
a
great.
good one, but still kind of a ripoff.
It got me into that RPG mindset. It had an anime art style that got me into drawing, and it for me, like, that's where I finally figured out like what it was that I was getting myself into with RPGs, and I think that it caught my attention for the rest of my gaming life, and I think that for me was kind of a
complete package.
That complete package, that formative thing. So, the next thing we'll talk about, we've gone over a lot of the stuff from like the past and like how it kind of registers with you, and I think I think the industry kind of understands that, and
Do they though?
they
Some do, some don't.
I think that they want to cash in on it.
I think there's some phenomenal examples for either side of the argument, and this is something that like I could say I feel very passionate about because here's the thing, nostalgia is an easy thing to cash in on because anybody who has grown up with something, you could then just make low effort, just let me bring it back real quick.
Okay. But you want to know why I can use Jurassic Park as an example?
Okay, okay, this is gonna be an interesting.
So, the newer Jurassic Park movies aren't necessarily bad movies if they were a different IP.
Yes.
They came out under the Jurassic Park license. They are all objectively worse than the first movie. Objectively.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it be story, pseudo horror experience, where they didn't really go from that tension of the first movie where the raptors get out or T-Rex is hunting you. Even the second movie, Lost World, has where the velociraptors are in the field and the Merc team is trying to run through it, and you're seeing dudes get picked off.
Yeah.
Fantastic scene, even in the second movie.
And I think I do agree with that. I would say that when it comes to...
So if you're gonna do a cash-in on nostalgia, do it good. Do it well.
Yeah, and I think of a fine example, because I've seen this, and this is like, again, I was today years old when I found this, that they are remaking Silent Hill 2. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to take Silent Hill 2 as one of my examples of it's been around long enough, right? And it's been a good enough amount of time and enough console generations later to warrant a remake of that game. So there's two different types of, I guess...
Because you've had what? That was PS1?
PS2, actually.
Silent Hill was... Okay, Silent Hill 1 was end of PS1.
Yes. Which, like, that's why Silent Hill 2 actually had a lot of, like, development aspects that they still use back in, like, the PlayStation 1 era. Like, Heavy Fog, though great for aesthetic, was mostly because their draw distance was shit.
Right.
But that made it.
Yeah, that made it. And that was
that's
kind of
what makes Silent Hill 1 a classic.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of like a fine example of using the technology limitations to also create a great ambiance.
Yeah. So this is kind of just a little tangent here. I saw I think it was a meme, maybe it was an article the other day, that argued that horror video games are the current prime medium to experience horror games in because they're taking risks still.
Yeah.
Horror movies, not so much. Horror TV shows, they're kind of becoming cliched, stale, stagnant.
No, but we talked about horror movies. What about the genital mutilation? They're taking risks.
What about the genital?
But the problem with that is that that's not really like... There's no interesting plot to it. It's, oh, they're a virgin. Let's violate their vagina.
That's disgusting.
Right.
Yeah,
But that's not...
Yeah.
It's
the
not
gaming, it really does.
Right.
It really does.
Because that's the thing, right? You have things like Inside, Little Nightmares, games like that.
I do love Little Nightmares.
Limbo.
Limbo was also really good.
Games that play with sound. And the thing is that a lot of people play video games with headphones. And if you're using binaural audio and you can play with it where it's like you have a whisper in someone's like right ear, Phasmophobia is a game that actually does this very well. And I play that with some of my work friends, and it's hilarious to hear one of them scream because dude screams like a little girl.
That is amazing. So the thing about, right, essentially two different types of remakes kind of come to mind, and that's if it's been a long enough time and there's been enough of a change in the gaming atmosphere and technology to warrant remaking it, or the original vision couldn't really happen with the restraints, may have been time, budget, whatever it might have been. that warrants a remake, right?
Oh, see, that's interesting because I was going to say there's the third category of just the cash grab.
Well,
Are you saying what warrants
it?
Okay,
Now,
okay.
here's the thing. This is the counter side to, what I think is going to be a good remake. Because I believe, just from looking at it, it looks like there was a lot of care taken. In the trailer, they showed off a lot of point-for-point scenes that were remade in new, amazing-looking graphics. Like, to the point where, like, the dude was, like, making contact with the hand on his skin, and you could see the skin,
the
press,
yeah.
Which, like, can you imagine that in a horror game? Come on now.
Yeah, that amount of detail.
Yeah.
When you're doing something
Oh,
terrible
like
to somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
fuck,
I'm like,
man.
just looking at that, I was
You
like,
might be out of the horror game genre, my friend.
Now,
Yeah,
here's the thing.
Motherfucker starts bleeding, I'm done.
The opposite end of this.
It starts bleeding realistic.
So we know The Last
Realistic
of Us.
blood physics.
The Last of Us was a video game that. Now here's the thing: fantastic video game, right?
Yeah, when it came out on the PlayStation 3.
Yeah, when it came out on the PlayStation 3, which was not that long ago.
So the thing I will say though is that the PS4 remake was the one where the technology at the time on the PS3 wasn't quite fully there.
Agreed.
So the PS4 remake was a good remake.
Yes. Now
The
here's
PS5 is a fucking cash grab.
Yes. Now, and that's what I'm saying, right? So when you look at the remake, or rather the remaster, going from the PlayStation 3 to the PlayStation 4, that's a fine example of, at the time, the technology couldn't allow you to kind of realize your original image and your original vision for that game. Then you look at it and you say, this was remastered, right? And full HD, 60 frames per second. You can see the pores of their fucking skin. And then the PlayStation 5 comes out, and then they're like, let's do it again. And then when they show up to the point where you can sit there and say, we remade it from the ground up and ... But when you show a screenshot side by side, I'm like,
Right.
Like, I'm kind of hard pressed to see which one's the remake.
Not only that, but they also charged full current $70 gen price for it.
Yeah.
Right.
It wasn't $40, it wasn't $30.
Because that's
It
the thing,
was
even the
70.
remaster, which definitive version of it, in my opinion, the remaster was still...
The PS4 version was like $40.
Yeah, it was not a full price game.
There's that meme that PlayStation 2 had 3 GTAs.
Yeah.
And then GTA 5 has 3 PlayStations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the same kind of idea. Skyrim's much the same way.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing that kind of
Your
gets
Samsung
me...
smart fridge can now play Skyrim.
They sit here and they say, "Oh man, look at the graphics, look at the graphics." But then you also do little things like, I don't know if you noticed, Joel looks a little different in the newest remake of The Last of Us than he does in the original. Now, I'm not saying that the graphics look better, so he looks different. It almost looks like they changed the character model's face. So it's like when you're doing a side by side comparison.
Well, they have that series coming out.
Yeah.
HBO,
Are they trying to make him?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So now,
Same thing of what happened with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
When they released the PlayStation 4 version of Spider-Man for the PlayStation 5, and they tried to make him look more like Tom Holland, and they tried to make it so that they could sell the game with the kind of like with the movies, and they're trying to kind of like the same thing that they're doing with Last of Us. They've saturated the market so much with the same thing over and over and over again, and like there's people who are gonna watch the TV series, like the stream heads. They're just into the TV of it.
yeah.
And they'll be like, "Oh well, look, it's actually based off of a video game," and they'll make it look similar. They'll make that contingency actually happen.
Because it's like cross marketing at this point, and it's
Well-
like, and then on top of that, like, we're sitting here and we're supposed to be making these comparisons game to game and be like, oh, they look so much better. You did so much better. It's like, you can't make the main character look like a completely different person and then be like, side-by-side comparison. It's like,
Well, so another thing, right? Isn't the Spider-Man in the PS4 Spider-Man game like an adult? He's like a fucking tax-paying, legal, mid-20s adult.
Yeah.
Tom Holland is not that. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a high school student.
Yeah.
They're different Spider-Men. Even though they're both Peter Parker.
Yeah, and now it just looks weird because he's got this weird baby face.
Right.
And it's
Did they have Tom Holland come in and did they put the mocap stickers on him? Did they do all that stuff?
No, it was like a weird, like, sort of look alike.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember L.A. Noire?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Good game, but they didn't have the muscle structure for the technology that they were using, so the faces are moving on it's just bone underneath. There's no muscles contracting and pulling or anything.
Very awkward.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was revolutionary for the time, but it was really
Yeah, but that game bankrupted that studio.
What?
Rockstar North made one game, I think, and it was L.A. Noire.
Ooh.
They put so much money into that technology that they did not break even.
That is ridiculous.
Like, look at how this guy, when he ponders, you can see his ponder on his face. and he just went broke.
They all look like creepy fake facsimile to
Right.
Like
that game is the Uncanny Valley game.
It is. It's that, like, if you want a dictionary definition of Uncanny Valley, it's like, there you go.
But like some of the examples of a really good remake, right? So there's kind of like two schools of it, right? There's the take an old game and like kind of point for point remake it and then make the graphics, make the engine work better and so the idea is like Spyro, the Reignited trilogy. It's a situation where I've played those games before. An amazing game, Spyro 1, 2, and 3. Complete, in my opinion, kind of like that adventure platforming. It's like a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it benefits from the new technology and it benefits from the good graphics and the animations. They make it more like almost like a Pixar movie or like that kind of DreamWorks, that fluidity, and it really benefits amazingly from it. The same thing with like the Tony Hawk 1 and 2, those remakes.
Remasters,
Oh my gosh, fantastic!
Yeah.
I still need to get them eventually.
I didn't realize I was so bad at those games until I got the remake.
No,
dude, I'm absolutely getting them and then immediately putting like moon gravity and shit on them. It's the most fun you could have in those games.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed there.
So then there's the other school of remakes, right? That you take something and you just kind of you use it as a framework and then you just go ape shit and kind of just do it so far away from what it was. And like that was my
So
yes.
the Final Fantasy VII remake, though, from everything I've read, seen, and heard, is really, really good, though.
Yeah, in its own way.
It's a good game.
And I kind of think, though, that's why it works, is because if you're going to do something, right, because it would be really hard, even just upgrading the graphics, it'd be really hard to recapture what was Final Fantasy VII. It's like a very tall order.
So one of the problems, though, is that with the Final Fantasy VII remake, the entire first part of the game is just the first, 5-6 hours of the original game. Yeah. It's Midgar. They made Midgar a 40-hour game.
Which is rather impressive.
Right, but here's the thing. I think they're only planning on doing 3 parts.
So yeah, they're gonna have to fit a lot.
I mean, I don't have anything to confirm that. That's just a lot of what I've heard is that they only want to do 3 parts. And part 2 is supposed to come out next year. But remember where disc 1 ends. We're not gonna spoil it, but remember where disc 1 ends.
It's so fucking weird to think about spoiling a game that's like
It's 25 years old.
And it's crazy because it's relevant again now because you are playing it in some
Right.
form, and it is that story in some form.
But that's the thing, though. So they took the first 5 hours of the game, made it 40. There's still another 25, 30 hours on just disc 1 if you're going to do most of the side quests and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot for them to cover
Right.
now. And if they are only doing 2 other parts besides what they already have out there, that's
Right, because disc 1 ends with that scene. Disc 2 is mostly dealing with fighting Shinra. Disc 3 is just end area of the game.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all disc 3 is.
it's like
Hey, so part 3 is going to be $70 and like 4 hours worth of gameplay.
yeah.
Well,
Love it. Fucking love it. Let's go.
Like this is the only sequence we could put in there was a fight with Sephiroth.
So that means that if they're going to do that, though, part 2 is going to have from Calm up until you do the mission where you return to Midgar from the plane. And that's not really spoilers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of game, though.
Yeah.
That's the fights with all the ultimate weapons and stuff. They're going to have Ruby and Emerald. There's the submarines, all this stuff. You can't put that in one game.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Not the way they spread out that remake.
They really should have just like said fuck it and just made this game huge. They should have just said,
Well,
I don't give a shit. Develop it for like 10 years because you know it's been in development for a long time.
They've been talking about the Final Fantasy remake since like 2007.
Yeah.
I think they first showed footage at E3 around that year.
Right, but so it more or less, you know, I'm probably going to catch so much shit for saying it, but I mean, provided we have any fucking listeners, but fine. It plays more or less like Kingdom Hearts, right?
Okay, but it looks like it's a sleeker Kingdom Hearts. Because, right, here's the thing. I bought Kingdom Hearts 3 when it came out. Now, mind you, the last Kingdom Hearts game I had played was
trash.
Oh, yeah.
2.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
No, the reason it was bad is because it felt like it was still a PS2 game.
Yeah.
Now, think about that for a second. That's not to say PS2 games were bad, but control schemes have come a long way in 17 years.
This is true.
And also that menu in the left corner of the screen, action gameplay has changed. Like Final Fantasy 15 is a much nicer Kingdom Hearts experience.
Can I also point out though, like there's also another inherent issue with new Kingdom Hearts, and that's like they don't know when to stop, right?
Right. So here's the thing. That's what I was gonna say. There's 14 games in between Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3. 14.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. There really is remakes like interquels, you know, mobile versions.
No remakes. There were no remakes technically in between.
That's
Final Mix and stuff isn't a remake. It's technically a complete package because they added stuff in the American version that wasn't in the original Japanese version, so they released Final Mix in Japan, but then it took them forever to release it over here because they added new stuff when they released it in Japan.
what
So
the
the final
fuck?
right. So the final mixes we were getting, but even those two technically adding stuff. So you had Kingdom Hearts, Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 2. Then you've got stuff like 358 and a half days, Dream Drop Distance. Kingdom Hearts has
Birth by Sleep.
so much stuff. Birth by Sleep.
So how's this for another remake? Crisis Core is getting a remake.
Yeah, surprising.
Really?
Yeah, which I mean, cool.
I hope they keep.
Okay.
So Nemesis, right? They showed Nemesis in Crisis Core.
Mhm.
He was played by he was like a J-pop visual Kai.
J-Rock.
Yeah.
That was
Gacked. Remember? Does anybody remember
Yeah.
Gacked? He actually also did the song for the.
Yeah.
It was Redemption, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's.
Which was a good.
That was my
one.
weed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're gonna bring back Crisis Core, but they're not gonna bring back Parasite Eve or what was the dinosaur one?
Whoa.
Dino Crisis?
Oh,
Yes.
Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Dino Crisis, dog. Yeah. Which is really sad because that's a classic.
Those are
classic,
both
man. Come
Square
on,
Enix.
And they could. Here's the thing, though. They did. I remember they had Parasite Eve third birthday on the PSP. I think it was third birthday. Like that was the last Parasite Eve game that they made. And here's the thing: they Square Enix is in a weird spot. Their games are terrible. Like the visuals are all cool and everything, but like. Crisis Core had a weird battle system. It was decent, but it had a very weird battle system. You look at something like Third Birthday, it had a very, very weird battle system. Like, it wasn't just like, because you remember the original Parasite Eve games, they were kind of just Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Then it's like
with parasites instead of zombies.
Then they turned
So we just went ahead and we went from nostalgia to straight up Dunkin on.
Because here's the thing, they're weird because they're in a weird space of nostalgia where they don't necessarily remake everything. They just bring things back at a weird point in time in a weird version of itself.
So
not like this.
You remember
Not
that
like this.
giant Nvidia game leak that happened a few years ago?
I'm trying to think.
Like it talked about the Final Fantasy VII remake. It mentioned a Chrono Cross remaster. It talked about a Final Fantasy IX remake.
Almost all of these are
just about every single one of them has come true.
except for yours. Final Fantasy IX hasn't.
They haven't announced it yet because Square Enix has a lot of shit going on right now. You've got Final Fantasy 16 is coming out next year.
Oh, not looking forward to that.
Dragon Quest 12 is coming out in the next couple years.
All right.
So if I'm Square Enix, I'm not going to announce a Final Fantasy remake because that's the thing. 2024 is supposed to also have Final Fantasy VII Part 2.
Their schedule's deep right now.
So we
also remember that they just dumped all their Western developers. That's why we've talked about it.
Oh, that's right.
Crystal Dynamics sent out a survey like, hey, are people still interested in Legacy of Kain?
Right.
And yeah.
Please, yes, please.
So here's another thing, right? The guy who was the creative director behind Legend of Dragoon, I can't remember his name offhand. He's working on what is effectively a prequel that he is funding through Kickstarter. And while he can't use characters like Dart and Rose because those are technically Sony's IPs.
So here's
Dragoon is not. So
Okay.
he can make a Dragoon game about the past.
So hold on to Hope because Hope is amazing. I'm gonna give you the dark side of that, right? And it's all like right in that. I think Crimson knows exactly where I'm going with this run.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in that nostalgic type of mindset, right? Keiji Inafune.
Yeah.
So he came out from I think Capcom fired him.
I'm not gonna say I hate him.
I absolutely fucking hate him. Right?
Ooh, man.
And, he said, I'm taking Mega Man with me. And they said, no, you're fucking not. So he goes ahead and he was actually.
Didn't he make Balan Wonderland, or is that another dude I'm thinking of?
Actually,
Wait a minute.
Oh no, I think you might be right.
Oh,
shit!
Hold on.
I will have to Google that, right? But so he went and made like a bastard version of Mega Man Legends 3.
Yeah.
And remember, he couldn't. So it was all original characters and couldn't use Mega Man, couldn't use anything like that. And sat there and kind of milked the Kickstarter and got promotional art and lots of character concepts and things like that. And it seemed amazing, even though it wasn't going to be a fully realized Mega Man Legends 2 sequel.
Oh, he took the money and bounced.
Yeah,
right?
he bounced.
Yeah,
and even worse, he went. Now I might have the timelines mixed up, but he also went with a somewhat spiritual successor to Mega Man X and Mighty Number 9.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's
that was.
He essentially it was messed up because he essentially bait and switched people to get the money to fund his weird love child of what was Mega Man and what he can legally do.
So, one of the things though is that Mega Man has a bigger following than Legend of Dragoon.
Yep. They couldn't do it.
But that's one of the things the guy, like, it's an interview that I read of his a couple times now.
Right.
It's one of the things he talks about is that basically Sony screwed them over. Like, Sony has shifted much more heavily to their Western developers, right?
Yep.
Naughty Dog, Insomniac, all that stuff.
Well, they pull it in, so.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Legend of Dragoon sold 1.2 million copies in its first run. Back in the day, that was a fantastic number.
That's actually a huge number.
Yeah, it's huge. So
the game was $50. 50 times 1.2 million.
Don't make me math.
Wait, wasn't Legend of Dragoon? It was advertised on in
Sony magazines and a bunch of stuff.
All of its official. They leaned really heavily into it.
Because you remember how back in the old days when you got the CD and the jewel case, and you would not only get like the instruction manual, but then you get
the advertisement manual. Yeah.
And I remember, I want to say it was Final Fantasy VIII. I'm not sure why. I think Final Fantasy VIII had advertisements for Legend of Dragoon. And it was 7 or 8. It was definitely a Final Fantasy game though, which was crazy because I feel like that had a lot to do with why it did so well.
So, okay, that just reminded me of something, right? So when Street Fighter 2 was really big and they were selling arcade cabinets everywhere, right? Mortal Kombat was the new kid on the block for that. So Midway, they had 2 options for Mortal Kombat if you wanted to have an arcade cabinet. If you wanted to, you could buy it outright, get a machine delivered to you with Mortal Kombat installed. They also offered they called it an upgrade package, which allowed you to specifically change a Street Fighter 2 cabinet into a Mortal Kombat cabinet. They had decals that you could replace the side, all the side art.
I remember reading about this.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. And so fast forward, and now I love Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 7. I like Final Fantasy 8. Unpopular opinion, fight me on it. I don't give a fuck.
I can go without 8.
But I could only imagine the type of. Could you imagine back if they were trying to sell Legend of Dragoon against Final Fantasy back then?
No, but dude, he's right. I remember getting several PlayStation 1 games. I think like Final Fantasy Tactics had it in it. There were games that just had like in the back of their instruction manual was an advertisement for Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I remember they did that with I want to say it was Breath of Fire 4. They did that shit too. And it was weird because it was in the back of Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness. Which was a really weird one for me.
It's like, hey, are you having fun running mazes and doing Pac-Man and all that? You know, like real basic shit. Here's Breath of Fire. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. Like completely unrelated recommendations. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Well, right, but just to get us back on track, it's like, on the whole, I do think remakes and remasters are good for the industry because it brings games that we played, 20, 25 years ago back into the modern space. Chrono Cross just recently got its remake, remaster, but it's $20. Is it a buggy, random slowdown mess? Yes. Does it have a double fast forward function? Yes.
Love it.
So, you know what? For $20, I can't really complain.
Yeah.
It does look kind of nice. You can still technically play it with the PS1 graphics if you want to, and it still runs just fine.
Nice.
But they weren't asking for a lot from that, right? They said, here's $20, here's a game, go away.
Right.
And that's it. I'm fine with that interchange. Another one that came out, though, was THQ, I think, is the one who did it. The Kingdoms of Amalur remake. Actually, Kingdoms of Amalur, the first one, was a really, really good game. Was it the best RPG I've ever played? No. Was it a very fun RPG to play? Yes.
Yeah.
And not only did they come out, they added an expansion that basically picks up right where the main story leaves off. Yeah, they released that expansion in like March of this year.
So
a game that came out
Cool.
10 years ago got a remaster this year and an expansion pack for it.
but how unfortunate is the name?
What? Kingdoms of Amalur?
Re-Reckoning.
Oh
No, you read it. It's like reckoning.
Yeah, they dad joked it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Fate Sworn is the name of the expansion.
That's. I'm trying to think. THQ. Oh no, THQ.
Well, it's THQ Nordic.
Well,
Now.
I mean,
Now.
but didn't they do the Saints Row?
Yep.
And every single PlayStation has like Saints Row, 3 and 4 and Get Out of Hell, and they just do that
All the time.
Well, so that's been the big thing, right? Is that it keeps circulating that a Legend of the Dragoon remaster is in the works, and the studio that did the Shadows of Colossus remaster is the one that is teasing that they're like, we have a big project that we can't talk about.
I've got a big amount of money, so
Yeah.
About it.
I got dollars.
Eh.
But I guess, right? Nostalgia is great. It kind of keeps us into it.
So
There's an amount of it that, I mean, it's always nice to see new things. It's always nice to see something fresh. But like, we got into gaming in a specific way, and for a lot of us, like, those memories are like, it's like a blast shadow that is stuck on the interior of our skulls.
well, so I always try and go back and replay the old games that I really like once every couple years, just to see if they still hold up. And I still enjoy them just the same.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to talk about a remake that's stuck in development hell? Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Which we shouldn't get into too much because we've already been on this episode a while.
Yes.
We could have a Knights of the Old Republic episode.
Yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic was a pretty big game for me.
Because they
back in the day.
and unfortunately they
2003.
took poor Knights of the Old Republic out of the Star Wars official canon.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean,
It was one of the best.
No.
what?
So Revan is mentioned in episode 9. One of the troop names is under Revan, the Revan troops. Like they're named for different Sith lords.
Yo, that's fucking cool. Yes.
Okay.
We can have it back.
They're
Thank
bringing
you.
relevancy back in their new content. I wonder why.
Yeah.
That's a separate episode.
And with that, it is last call. Thank you for having a few with us. We are Critical Hit. This is Dunkin Pumpkin.
Dunkin'
Yes.
Pumpkin.
Dumb name. Amazing beer.
It's a beer.
Just a quick note before the end of the episode, just for the listeners, all 2 of you. Thing like the release schedule has been a little weird. Just trying to get the episodes together and get them out and get them on the platform, and to you has been somewhat weird, somewhat difficult. We are shooting for Thursday. Every Thursday will be a new episode of Critical Hit, and yes, so now you'll have a set schedule for your new favorite podcast. So until the next episode, drink hard, play responsibly. We will see you next time. Peace!